Yo, what's going on, Sixer Nation? DFJ Hoops here. Back again with another live stream. We know it's the off season. Things are a little bit slow right now, but still we still gotta do lives and we gotta do shows, talk about things revolving around the Sixers. So I got a good show for y'all today. Ricky Council signs with the Brooklyn Nets. Guerschon Yabusele talks his Sixers exit on the Roommates podcast, and then also we're going to address the Joel Embiid trade rumors. But I want y'all to smash the like button as y'all come in. Smash that like button. If you're not subbed to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to hit the bell notification icon. So, let's get right into it. Salute to my guy, One Mike in the building. Appreciate you, bro. What's good? Been a while. I know it's off season, but please try to do more live streams. Yeah, I'm trying to, bro. I'm trying to, and yeah, we'll definitely do more shows, bro. I promise you. Yeah, but appreciate you though. Appreciate you. Yeah, just like he said, y'all, smash that like button. Smash that like button. Which one should we do first? I think I'm gonna start with the Ricky Council thing. Right, Ricky Council signing with the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I want to address this too. So last week when I did the Ricky Council live stream, I had somebody in the comment section, saying I didn't do my research and I'm just talking shit. Ricky Council is a 6'6". Ricky Council is a 6'6" wing. He's not a guard, right? But I said he was 6'4". So my apologies for that, right? But what people try to do is that when they have no rebuttals for your arguments or for your talking points, they just go for the lowest hanging fruit and they prove that you're wrong or you prove that you're lying, and they try to use that as rebuttals to your main points or your main arguments, which is not the case. Like, I didn't say anything negative about Ricky Council, right? I didn't say anything negative about him. I just said that his time with the Sixers, he didn't improve, and it's facts. He did not improve, right? The same weaknesses he had from his rookie season, he had those same weaknesses in the second season, right? And so the Sixers did not feel confident moving forward with him on the roster, so they cut him, right? That's not saying anything. That's not saying anything negative about him, right? He just didn't improve. But because I said he was 6'4" and he's 6'6", if you think that's rebuttals to any of my main points, then I guess. But I don't think it's rebuttals, right? So you should attack my talking points and not because I said he was 6'4". Okay, I appreciate the correction, but just attack my talking points. That's all I asked for. But Ricky Council signing with the Brooklyn Nets. First of all, I'm really happy for him because when you get cut like that, it's very, very scary, especially if you're an undrafted player, because the thing is that where am I going to play next, right? What team is going to take a chance on me next? And very, very happy that it was Brooklyn that signed him to that put him on their team. Now I wanted him to go to Miami because Miami has a culture bringing the best out of players that are undrafted, right? Players that have that dog mentality. I think Ricky Council got that dog mentality. I think it's up to a team to bring that out of him, right? But Brooklyn, I don't think Brooklyn is going to really prioritize him because for number one, Brooklyn in this draft, they picked up like 4 or 5 rookies. So Brooklyn is trying to rebuild, right? Ricky Council's in his 3rd season, right? And Brooklyn got a couple players that are looking to get moved. I think Nick Claxton probably wants out. A couple of those other players probably want out, right? Noah Clowney, Dariq Whitehead, and a few other players. They probably want to move on because this team is looking to rebuild and they're not looking to develop or they're not looking to win anytime soon. So him going to Brooklyn, he's not going to be a main priority. He signed a 1-year deal with the team, and Brooklyn will rather prioritize the players they picked up in this year's draft, right? Danny Wolf and some of the other players. I don't know all the players they drafted, but that's going to be that's the main goal, right? So Ricky going to Brooklyn, that's fine. It works for him, but I just hope that he gets an opportunity, right? That's all that matters at this point, because if you don't get the opportunity, you're not going to be able to prove yourself. And if you're not able to prove yourself, guess what? No other team is going to take a chance on you next season. So him signing a 1-year contract is good, but I just hope he gets the opportunity, because if you don't get the opportunity, it's going to be game over for you. And if you're an undrafted player, in a situation like this, it's very, very scary because the last thing you want is to get cut and then no other team wants you on their roster. So him going to Brooklyn, that's good. Um, I mean, I think he can definitely get a roster spot with the team, but it all depends on the direction that the team is trying to head towards. Now, me personally, I think they're trying to rebuild. They're trying to, focus on the players that they drafted and go from there. So if that's the goal, then Ricky Council might not get the opportunity to prove himself. Now, if they're trying to play and trying to win games, win a few more games next season, along with the vet players that they got on the team, then Ricky Council will definitely have a role on that team, right? And I think this could be seen as a fair exchange because the Sixers signed Trendon Watford. So was it a 2 year, 6 million, and then in return they picked up Ricky Council the fourth. So it's a fair exchange in my opinion, right? You're getting two free agents on your team to help your team. I think it's a fair exchange, but I mean, I don't think anybody's going to make any arguments that Ricky Council is better than Trendon Watford, right? I think Trendon Watford is better than Ricky Council, brings more to the table than a Ricky Council. Versatility, rebounding, some a little bit of athleticism, not too much, but I mean, Ricky Council is clearly the most athletic out of the two, but I think Trendon Watford is a better player. So, I wish him the best. I really like Ricky Council. I wish he could have improved with the Sixers, and I wish the Sixers would have kept him, but the Sixers had different plans. I don't like the fact that the Sixers chose to keep Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon. Me personally, I wanted them to keep one so they could keep Ricky Council, but that was not the case. The Sixers did not want to do that, so him going to Brooklyn, that's fine. And I think the Sixers, the Sixers can move on, and then Ricky Council can also move on. So that's my thoughts on him signing with Brooklyn. I mean, we get to see him 4 more times in the season because Brooklyn and Philly's in the same division, so we play them 4 times every year. So we might be seeing Ricky Council, and if he gets an opportunity to play, he'll probably he'll probably show up in those games and try to prove a point that the Sixers were absolutely wrong for cutting him and letting them walk for nothing. So I wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully we can play him and see what he's capable of doing. Hopefully he can add a little bit more to his game and make his game more complete than his time in Philly. So yeah, wishing Ricky Council the best. Moving on. Yeah, I didn't spend too much time on this, but moving on. Yabusele did an interview on the Roommates podcast, the same podcast that has Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart with with another host. I forgot his name, but that was a good podcast. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched what I was interested in, what I wanted from that podcast. But it's a lot that Yabusele said in that interview that was very, very interesting. Right? He talked about his journey from getting to the NBA and then leaving the NBA, playing in the EuroLeague for like 5 years. He said it was 5 long years. And every summer, right? Every summer, his agent was telling him that, we might have a chance to get back to the NBA. There are a couple teams that's hitting us up saying that they're interested, right? But every single time it ended the same way, which is him not getting back to the NBA. And smash that like button as y'all come in. But he finally got the opportunity to come to the NBA. The 76ers took a chance on him after his uh after his good or great Olympics run. Now France did not win gold. I mean, the U.S. clearly won gold, but his performance was so spectacular that the Sixers took a chance on him, signing him to a vet minimum contract. And he did say that there was a few people that was telling him not to go back to the NBA and just return to Madrid for one more season. But then he told them like, "Yo, when the team wants you, you just take that opportunity. You don't let the opportunity slide. You don't let the opportunity go by because the next year you don't know. You might not get that same opportunity, right? Other teams might try to go for other players, and the same team that was interested in you might not be interested in you anymore, and they might be looking at a different player. So anytime you get that chance, anytime you get that opportunity, you just take it, right? Now, him saying that, it kind of, it was giving me a different kind of insight because, players that are from here usually think that playing in the NBA is a right, but playing in the NBA is not a right. Playing in the NBA is a privilege. and only the privileged players get to play in the NBA for so long. He also did say that um, the average years for playing in the NBA is like 2 to 3 years. And then he did say that he played two seasons, and then he had to leave and come back to the team. I mean, come back to the league. Had some few comparisons when he got here at first. He was saying that players are so fast, players are so athletic. I mean, I think the NBA has always been a fast paced league. The NBA has always been very, very skilled, and the NBA has always been very, very like players are very, very athletic, right? But in the EuroLeague is something different, right? I think they asked him to, differentiate between the two leagues, and he did say that in the NBA it's kind of different because teams, when they figure out who the mismatch is, they'll try to attack that mismatch over and over and over again until the coach decides to take him out, and then they'll figure it out from there. But in contrast to the EuroLeague, they draw plays and they run real sets, right? So that's a difference that he gave. But he said the NBA is the best league, which nobody would disagree with him on that point, right? The NBA is definitely the better league. The NBA has the better players, the most skilled players, the most athletic players, and things of that nature. But he also made some comments about his time with the 76ers. Now, he did say that, he grabbed the opportunity once it came his way. And then when he got to the team, he knew what his role was going to be. He knew the contract that he signed for, and he knew that he wasn't going to be like a big contributor on the team, right? Because I mean, you're just coming in, right? You've been gone for 5 years, right? You just signed for the minimum, so you just take whatever role they give you, whatever whatever assignment that the head coach gives you, you just take it and you try to carry it out to the fullest, right? But he then said that later on, Nick Nurse told him that, because other guys are dealing with injuries, you might play a little more minutes, right? You might be playing the center position in some games from time to time, right? You might be playing the center position and you might be playing 30 plus minutes. And he said he had to adjust to it, right? He had to adjust to it because, the players are playing very, very fast. The game is very, very fast. Um, so he had to adjust to it. And also he had to adjust to the amount of minutes that he was going to be playing because he didn't think he was going to play 35 plus minutes. But looking at it, I think it was an advantage for Yabu because playing those amount of minutes and giving you the production that he was giving you. I mean, he wasn't giving you any great production. I mean, he was giving you double figures on good shooting splits, right? I think he shot very, very good from the three. He shot very, very good from the field in general, and around the basket he was finishing at a high rate. I think he converted like 65+% around the basket because I mean he's very, very athletic and finish around the basket, can dunk, can do whatever. But he was also very, very good from the 3-point line. So I think it really helped him, right? It really helped him because he's playing a lot of minutes. Teams are getting to see him, and then teams could ultimately take a chance on him in free agency like the Knicks did, right? So I think it really helped him. But I mean, as he was talking about it, he said he had to adjust to it because the game was just too fast. Players are just too fast. And I mean, as Sixer fans, I mean, we saw it like when players were, you know, matchup hunting for him, right, to get him on the perimeter, to take advantage of him. Like he saw it, right? He couldn't stay in front of nobody, right? He couldn't stay in front of nobody. And that's one of his biggest weaknesses, right? Inability to stay in front of players, especially some of these quicker guards like the Darius Garlands, the Trey Youngs. Like, bro, they will blow past you in a second, right? But he also gave us thoughts on how the Sixers how the Sixers had so much expectations, and then the season ended up going the way that it went. And he gave his opinion. He said to him, he doesn't know what happened, but if he was to say anything, it would probably be that the Sixers making trades, right? The Sixers making trades, bringing in new guys, and then also signing other players to 10-day contracts. They brought in a lot. Excuse me. The Sixers brought in a lot of players, right? The Alex Reeses of the world, Jalen Hood-Schifino, a few other players. I think Evan Mobley's brother ended up playing for the Sixers too. So the Sixers, yeah, they had a total of 35 play. I mean, either 33 or 35 players play for the Sixers last season. right? And then you had guys also dealing with injuries. I mean, we knew Joel Embiid was going to deal with injuries. That's not any secret. But then you had other guys, Paul George dealing with injuries, Caleb Martin dealing with injuries, KJ also dealing with injuries, and then you had Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon later on also dealing with injuries. So, with the trade part, I mean, I respect his opinion, but I believe that the Sixers had to make those trades, right? The Sixers had to make those trades because you had to get off Caleb Martin. And as much as I didn't like it, they had to because he was just dealing with so much injuries and he wasn't playing enough games, right? He was just in and out the lineups. He had a good game against the Boston Celtics, which he always does, right? But apart from that, that was basically it, right? Had a lot of mediocre games, had a lot of games where he was underperforming, and then you had other players also dealing with injuries. Like KJ, before KJ got traded, KJ missed a lot of games, right? KJ missed a lot of games where Nick Nurse was starting him at the power forward or sometimes bringing him off the bench to be the small ball center at 6'7". I mean, KJ is very, very athletic, but KJ dealt with was it a hamstring injury, a knee injury or something like that, and then he was out for a lot of games, for a bunch of games until he got traded, right? And then the Sixers also traded Reggie Jackson, which nobody was surprised. I mean, everybody wanted him gone anyway because he wasn't really doing enough for you on a game to game basis, right? He could score the basketball, right? He could shoot, but other than scoring, he wasn't really doing anything else. He had his moments with the team against the Washington Wizards. Had that second quarter where he was just going off, but apart from that game, it was just mediocre all around. But yeah, I think the Sixers had to make those trades, and then later on, Yabu also dealt with injuries himself, right? I think he had the face injury where he was wearing the mask or something like that. So, yeah, the Sixers had to make that. They had to make that trades, right? They had to make the trades to get off a few contracts and you know get under the tax a little bit because the best players are dealing with injuries and their chances of competing for a championship or contending in the Eastern Conference was just lower, right? It was just lower because guys are not playing games. But according to Yabu, he believed that if they had not made any trades, like guys were going to be able to recover from their injuries and come back and try to play for the playoff spot. But me personally, I don't think it would have been possible because the Sixers were so far behind that it just wasn't going to happen, right? It just wasn't going to happen because they were so far behind. They were like the 12 or 13th seed. The closest they ever got to was the second seed, I believe. I mean, not the not the second seed, but the 10th seed. That's the closest they ever got to being in the play-in, right? And that was with guys being in and out the lineups. With Paul George, Embiid, Caleb, KJ, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, like a lot of players were dealing with injuries. So I don't think they would have contended for the playoffs or for the play-in, right? So that wasn't going to be possible. But overall, I respect him. I respect Yabu with what he said. I mean, he didn't really throw the Sixers under the bus. Not from anything that I heard, right? He didn't. I mean, he spoke great about the city of Philly, the teammates, the Sixers organization. Like he thanked the Sixers organization for giving him another chance, for giving him an opportunity to come back to the league, right? He was grateful for that opportunity. So he didn't say anything negative about the team. But as of right now, he's with the New York Knicks, and he's going. He's moving on from his time with Philly. I mean, the season was a disaster, so I think Yabu was trying to forget that and move forward with his new situation that he's in. I mean, he's on the Knicks. The Knicks, as much as I hate the Knicks are one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. We have to face it. And then also congratulations to Mikal Bridges for signing that contract extension for 4 years. So the Knicks are trying to win. They're doing whatever it takes to win a championship, and they're trying to keep this core for at least 4 seasons, right? So they're giving themselves a 4-year window, and within that 4-year window, they have to win the championship because they're just committed to all of these guys, right? They're committed to Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and then Mikal Bridges. So that's the core four right there, right? That's the core four. I think 3 of those guys are on max contracts. Mikal Bridges' contract is also a max contract, so that's like 4 guys, right? So they're trying to win now. Me personally, I wish Yabu the best as well. I was a Yabu fan. I really liked him. I liked his mentality. I liked his approach to the game. Right. When he wasn't injured, he was playing, and he had limitations out there on the floor, right, which is his defense and his rebounding, especially when he's going up against guys at 6'10", 6'11", 7-footers. Like, yeah, he's definitely gonna have the disadvantage because those guys are much bigger, much taller, with bigger or larger wingspans than he does. So, of course, it's not going to go in his favor, right? When we played the Sacramento Kings, like that game where Domantas Sabonis completely destroyed him on the glass, that's not his fault, right? That's not his fault. That's coaching right there because the coach, instead of playing the center that we had on the team, he decided to go with a 6'8" undersized big to compete with the best rebounder in the game in Domantas Sabonis. So you can't really blame Yabu for that. But I think he did overall. He did the best that he could. Now Yabu's not a player who can lead your team to the playoffs. That's not the caliber of player he is, right? He's just a complimentary piece who you can just put on a team, and then you can hope or wish that you make the playoffs. That's the caliber of player that he is. He's not no superstar. He ain't no all-star caliber player. So, there's a few Sixer fans that, they salty because he left the team, but I mean, the Sixers are the only ones to blame for him not being on the team because he really wanted to come back to the team. But unfortunately, the Sixers were not willing to give him the non-taxpayers mid-level exception. That's basically what he signed with the Knicks for. So, he can go prove his value for the Knicks and prove the Sixers wrong, and try to make a point of why they should have re-signed him to the team. But Yabu as a player, like I said, I really love him. I really respect him. I wish him all the best. He also has some statements to make on his time in Philly. Um, one being the cheesesteaks. Now, I know a lot of people like cheesesteaks, and his favorite spot was Angelo's in South Philly. That's a good spot. Me personally, I don't like going to South Philly because of obvious reasons. But also, I'm surprised that he was living in Philly because a lot of players, when they play for the Sixers, they they do not live in Philly. They just live right next to the practice facility, like their apartments or houses or whatever is mostly in South Jersey. So I was surprised that he was living in Philly. But there's a couple of players that also lived in Philly, but for the most part, like players live in Jersey. For the most part, players are living in South Jersey, right? I know JJ Redick was living in Philly. Kyle Korver, that was years ago, but he was living in Philly too. And a few other players were also living in Philly. But yeah, Yabu, I think he said the right things, right? He painted Philly in a good picture, right? He didn't say anything negative about the Sixers. Other than, I think he was just in disagreement with the Sixers making trades, but I believe the Sixers had to make those trades because guys were not playing and they had to make a move to secure the what you call it? To secure the pick from the OKC Thunder, right? And then they ultimately ended up with that pick, and they ended up picking VJ Edgecombe. So I think it was a positive that came out of it, right? That's something positive that happened because you drafted VJ, and VJ could be one of the two best or maybe three best players on the team in the very near future. So that was very, very good. That was a good move from the Sixers. So you got to give that to Daryl Morey. You got to give it to him. But yeah, I think it was a good interview. The vibes was there. Him, talking to his new teammates, with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. Like those guys made him feel very, very comfortable. And I'm just happy for Yabu, man. I'm just happy for him. And salute to my guy Cottage 81. Appreciate you, bro. Hey DFJ, what's good? Can the 76ers make the playoffs in the 2025-2026 season? Possibly, right? Possibly. That's the that's the hope. But again, if your best players are not going to play, then it's going to be very, very difficult. But I think they can, right? I think they can. But it's a lot of factors that goes into it, right? Making the playoffs is very, very difficult if your best players are not going to be playing, right? But yeah, I hope they can make the playoffs. I hope they can make the playoffs. Which, it sounds crazy because you got three max players. And sometimes, you just hope that those guys, along with complementary pieces that you got on your team, can help you make the playoffs and even win the championship. But now making the playoffs is kind of like a goal for the Sixers, which is sad, right? It is very, very sad. But yeah, let me move along and talk about this last thing. Address the Joel Embiid trade rumors, right? And as y'all come in, smash that like button, smash that like button. Now we've heard like this offseason, we're hearing a lot of trade rumors, involving Joel Embiid, and some make sense, some don't make sense. But I mean, as of right now, I think Joel Embiid is likely going to be on the Sixers. But these trade scenarios are very, very interesting, and I just want to talk about them. So I'm gonna just share my screen and yeah, go from there. But as y'all come in, smash that like button for me. So here we go. Let me get this off the screen. Yeah, so I hope y'all can see the screen. Let me try to zoom in. All right, there you go. So yeah, this article is from Clutch Points. The title is Joel Embiid trade Two Joel Embiid trade 76ers must consider after latest Paul George injury. The 76ers are hoping that Joel Embiid recovers or some tough trade decisions will have to be made really soon. Now, this was written by Jad Pegadon. I hope I said that right. But let's just read along. It says many consider the Philadelphia 76ers to be one of the biggest winners of the 2024 offseason when they pulled off the major Paul George signing, making the 9-time All-Star their de facto Tobias Harris replacement. However, George never really got going in a 76ers uniform last season. He injured his knee during preseason and struggled en route to his worst season since coming back from the leg injury he suffered in 2014. Now, George has had such a long track record of productive basketball that a few pegged him as a potential bounce back candidate for the 2025-2026 season. But wear and tear seems to be catching up to the 35-year-old. Around 2 weeks ago, George injured his left knee during a workout and had to get arthroscopic surgery to help him recover. Considering how the 76ers are already navigating the murky waters of Joel Embiid and his persistent injury troubles, George's latest injury also or only serves to make matters worse for Philadelphia. While the 76ers aren't approaching blow it up territory quite yet, they may have no choice but to face the music if these injuries continue to plague their best players. If anyone, George should be the first to go from the 76ers in such an event. Nevertheless, George's age, decline in play, and contract will make him rather impossible to trade, especially if the injury bug continues to gnaw at him. In the event of a doomsday scenario, it might behoove the 76ers to put Embiid on the trade market, hoping that a team out there would bet on his raw talent. With that being said, here are two trade here are two trades that the 76ers must consider if they decide to end the Embiid era on a whimper. So the first trade scenario is oh my god, this is funny. The 76ers will trade Joel Embiid, and then the Spurs will trade Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sohan, 3 first-round picks, 2027 Atlanta first-round pick, and 2029 and 2031 San Antonio first-round picks. So in other words, the 76ers will receive Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sohan, 3 first-round picks. Yeah, so those three players along with 3 first-round picks. Now, why would the Spurs make a trade like this? Right? This is a funny trade. And there's no way that the Spurs make this trade, right? I mean, you're gonna have Joel Embiid and Victor Wembanyama on the same team, right? Now these two players pretty much do the same thing, right? Dominant scorers that can also play defense. I mean, Victor Wembanyama is a better defender right now than Joel Embiid, but I don't see the Spurs making this move, right? I don't see them giving up all their young pieces for Joel Embiid, who's aging, injury plagued. Like, nah, it's not just gonna happen, right? I think they would rather go with Wemby. They go with Dylan Harper, the second overall pick, and then along with the pieces that they have right now, and try to win in the very near future. I think they're trying to win. I think the Spurs will be trying to compete next season, right? Now, last season they were going to be in the play-in, but Victor Wembanyama dealt with injury, so it just could not happen. But this season is going to be different because he's going to be healthy, and then they're going to go from there. You got Wemby, you got De'Aaron Fox, you got the younger pieces, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes. I mean, Harrison Barnes is a vet, but Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Dylan Harper, like these guys are younger players, so they're going to try to win with that with that core. And if they would not trade for Kevin Durant, why would they trade for Joel Embiid? It just makes no sense to me, right? It makes no sense. But let's see what they said right here, and let's move forward. Make no mistake about it, there's no way the San Antonio Spurs will agree to this trade. Of course. Of course. There's no universe where the Spurs will decide to give up all of those assets for someone like Embiid, especially now when we live in it. Now when we live in a universe where they refuse to be aggressive in acquiring Kevin Durant, someone who could have fit perfectly for what they're building around Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. That's exactly what I said, right? That's exactly what I said. If they if they don't want to trade for KD, why would they give up their assets for Joel Embiid, right? It just doesn't make any sense. But if somehow Embiid's best self is still in there, then this could be a risk any team, including the Spurs, could talk themselves into. The last time Embiid was healthy, he was dominant. Even when he was limping during the 2024 NBA playoffs, he dropped 50 and left it all out on the court. Embiid is a one-of-a-kind player, a dominant force, both with his back to the basket and while facing up. His mid-range jumper is perhaps the silkiest in the league outside of Durant's and SGA's, and he's a self-sufficient scorer, not requiring his teammates to spoon-feed him easy buckets. There's a reason Embiid won the 2022-2023 NBA MVP award over Nikola Jokic. While Jokic probably deserved to win the award more, Embiid's resume that season was not too shabby. He averaged 33 points, 10 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game during his MVP campaign, and then somehow was better than that the following year before he injured his left knee, putting up 34.7 points per game, 11 rebounds, and 5.6 dimes per night. And perhaps most importantly, Embiid is a force to be reckoned with on defense. He has mastered the art of positioning and timing that even with his decline in mobility, he remains a fierce rim protector. Now, that part I kind of disagree with because of his decline in mobility, he's not able to get up, and his timing is there, but just because of the mobility, he's not able to block shots the way he once did 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, right? So that's just not true. Now I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'm gonna just go to the second trade scenario, and then I'm gonna talk from there. Yeah, let me get into these comments a little bit. Cottage got a few comments for me. Can Joel Embiid be traded to the LA Clippers, aka BJ's team at DFJ Hoops? No, I don't. The Clippers will not make that move, right? The Clippers don't have any assets because at this point the Sixers would be looking for assets. They'll be looking for trade pieces, and the Clippers don't have that. So no, it's not going to be possible. Not at all. And I think the Clippers they have a good team. They're going to try to win, but I mean they don't need a Joel Embiid. They don't need Joel Embiid, right? They got Zubac. Now I'm not saying Zubac is better than Embiid because he's not, but Zubac is He's a competent big who can help Kawhi Leonard and James Harden win a championship. So yeah, I think you should go from there. But the second trade scenario is Nets get their franchise star. So the 76ers will be trading Joel Embiid, and Brooklyn will be trading Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas through a sign and trade, Danny Wolf, Jalen Wilson, a 2026, 2028, and 2030 Brooklyn first round picks, along with 3 second round picks as well. Wow. So, in other words, the 76ers will be getting Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, Danny Wolf, Jalen Wilson, along with 6 draft picks, right? And the Brooklyn Nets only get Joel Embiid. Oh my goodness. Now, I mean, this is also not gonna happen, but I think this is much more. This makes much sense than the first one. But let's just read what it says and let's get into it. This package for the 76ers is on the lighter side in terms of player return. Claxton is a starting caliber player, a classic rim running lob threat who can swat shots, but his inability to space the floor caps his ceiling as a contributor to a winning team. Thomas is one of the best pure scorers in the NBA, but on a team with Maxey McCain and presumably Quentin Grimes on it, Thomas appears to be an unnecessary piece, point blank. The 76ers don't need a player like Cam Thomas. I mean, that is true, right? That's absolutely true. Danny Wolf is a late first rounder in 2025, and Jalen Wilson has shown some promise as a bench contributor, but no one is expecting them to be needle moving pieces anytime soon. The real return lies here. I mean, the real return here lies in the first round picks. The 76ers are betting smartly that the Nets will struggle for the next few seasons with Embiid's health or lack thereof, perhaps dragging the team down. But what makes the Nets perhaps more inclined to do this trade more than most is the fact that they're lacking a franchise cornerstone at the moment, which is and that's true, right? That's true. But I mean, you would think that them getting a lot of rookies in this year's draft, you would hope that one of them can be a franchise cornerstone, right? But I mean, let me just go ahead with it. I mean, these trade scenarios are just funny, and there is no way that any of these teams make these moves. But hey, let me keep going. But what makes the Nets perhaps more inclined to do this trade? Now, yeah, let me just go ahead. But what makes the Nets perhaps more inclined to do this trade more than most is the fact that they're lacking a franchise cornerstone at the moment. They do not have someone to build around. They're still searching for that superstar whom they can mold the team around. Embiid is in real danger of no longer being the player he once was, but his upside might be too tantalizing for a talent-starved team like the Nets to pass up on. But at the end of the day, if this is the package available on the market for Embiid, the 76ers might be better off just keeping the former MVP. Giving up on Embiid means giving up on the possibility that he bounces back. Is that worth it to bring in this kind of package, which brings even more uncertainty to the table? Um, For now, the 76ers' best move is to stand pat and let things play out with Embiid. Maybe an early into the 2024-2025 season and a lengthy rehab would be enough to facilitate a redemption season. Nevertheless, the 76ers will have to think long and hard about their future, with Embiid getting up there in age and his knees simply being unable to sustain the kind of load he incurs by playing his style of ball. Now, yeah, I agree. The Sixers should keep Joel Embiid because these packages are not. I don't think they're enough, right? I don't think it's enough. I mean, I don't see it happening either. And the Clippers are BJ's team, but I agree the Clippers are not getting him, DFJ. Yeah, the Clippers are not going to make that trade. Absolutely not. Right? Absolutely not. Yeah, if they make that trade, somebody's definitely getting fired. Yeah, somebody would definitely get fired. But yeah, these moves, like I said, they don't make any sense. I'm gonna stop sharing. These moves don't make any sense whatsoever. For both sides, right? It don't make sense for Brooklyn. It don't make sense for the Spurs. And I think the Spurs, speaking of the Spurs, I think they shouldn't even make any moves like moving forward, right? They should keep the team the way it is, and try to win. Now it's going to be tough in the Western Conference, right? It's not going to be anything easy. It's going to be very, very tough. And you got young players, but I think they have experienced veterans. The Aaron Fox is a vet. Harrison Barnes is a vet. He's been on the winning team, so he knows what it takes. Now he's not a superstar, but from a veteran standpoint of view, I think he knows what it takes to play at a very, very high level and make deep postseason runs. So I think the Spurs should go in the direction that they're going, right? They're doing something right. And then with Brooklyn, I mean, they're trying to rebuild. They're trying to get a bunch of picks and go from there. So they're also doing something right, right? It might work out, it might not work out. Who knows? But I think they're doing something right. And the Sixers, yeah, at this point, you have to keep Joel Embiid and just hope that he could get healthy for next season, right? Hopefully, a long rehab, and some time to recover from the surgery that he underwent. Hopefully, that could be enough for him to recover to himself and be a very good player for next season. Maybe not an MVP dominant player, but a much competent center who could also, bring value to any team. That's what you expect Joel Embiid to become next season. So, but yeah, like I said, they make no sense whatsoever for both sides, and none of these teams are gonna make this move. So, yeah, that's that. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Ricky Council getting signed to the Brooklyn Nets. Really, really happy for him. Yabu talking his Sixers exit. Um, Making some comparisons to the EuroLeague and the NBA. Right, talking his time in the Olympics, the dunk over LeBron, everything was very, very was very, very nice to listen to. And then him talking to his new teammates, like you really like to see stuff like that, right? Really happy for him and his next future. Hopefully he's successful, right? Hopefully he'll be successful. I don't want the Knicks to win, but hopefully he can be successful. And then these Joel Embiid trade scenarios don't make any sense whatsoever. So yeah, is Joel Embiid overrated at DFJ Hoops? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. But I mean, again, it also depends on where you got him at, right? If you have him as a top 5 player right now, of course he's overrated. If you got him as a top 15, top 20 player, he's properly rated. But if you got him like top 30, top 40, yeah, he's underrated. So yeah, it all depends on where you have him at. I got him as a top 20 player, so I think he's properly rated. Yeah. But appreciate y'all for tuning in. Appreciate my guy, One Mike, always in the building, always supporting. And then also salute to my guy, Cottage 81 for hanging out with us. Appreciate it, appreciate it. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.